Hi Ivan, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, buddy. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Thanks very much for joining us on our first episode of the new series of FFC&Me, now on the Full-on podcast. Excited to get you on, obviously being who you are and then your role within Fulham. But before we get talking about your job and sort of working at Fulham and other things you do, I want to get to hear sort of how Fulham became about with you and then how you became a Fulham fan. So when did you sort of start becoming a Fulham fan, and how did sort of your journey with Fulham begin?
So yes, I was properly in the family. So my late granddad, he grew up on Kenyon Street, just off of Craven Cottage, and the Alphabet roads as they call them. And so I think his dad as well used to go to Fulham. My kind of beyond granddad knowledge is a bit more hazy, but I know it's definitely in the family. And so obviously he used to take dad along with him to games, and then dad would take me along to games. I think my first game was Division 3. It was back when it was, tickets I think were like a fiver, and you could stand wherever you wanted in what was then the Stevenage Road stand, and so we'd all stand whichever way Fulham was shooting. And then the second half would then stand the other side, so everyone would just sort of like gather each side. And and then it wasn't long before my granddad and myself were all going together and all sort of season ticket holders, and I mean I can't even remember the first game. I remember I was about 12 or 13 when he took me to a game, and I think because at that point I'd really started like getting into football and like following football, and if it was ever on the TV I'd be watching it. And so I think dad saw the perfect opportunity to sort of, you know, get me into Fulham, get that going, and yeah, it was amazing. I did think we lost our first game I saw, but it didn't matter. Like being at a live football game, just seeing that pitch, seeing the players, and oh my god, it was amazing. And yeah, from then on, never stopped, man. So I'm now 41, and I think, like I said, I was about 12, so I've been going for about 29 years. So it's yeah, I mean, it really is in the family.
Yeah, I think you're in the same bracket of me in the terms of at the time going to football. So you would have had the experience that I've had where, you've seen Craven Cottage as a football stadium grow and adapt and adjust so many times.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that it's hard for me to explain because I try to explain to my kids when I take them to football games that just how different the football stadium is now to what it used to be.
Yeah.
But it's almost as much as I love Craven Cottage now, we all like love it. It's just for me the old Craven Cottage, like the early '90s Craven Cottage, the high fences around the stands and stuff like that. Just it's so magical in terms of remembering going to football then.
Yeah.
Even though the product we were watching was probably a bit naff at times. Um, do, you- do you remember sort of what it was that when you went for the first time that was like, yeah, this is the place for me, or you know, that feeling?
Um, what was it? I think there was just something so intimate about it. It's just that first experience, isn't it? I mean, my dad wouldn't have taken me anywhere else. It would always have been Fulham. Like, I mean, obviously, I did that thing where at school, your mates followed Man United. It was always Man United back then. Every now and then it might be an Arsenal or a Chelsea or whatever. But so there was always, I suppose, a chance that on a superficial level, I could have ended up following a different club because, oh, my mate at school says this club or whatever. But I think, it was always going to have been Fulham the moment my dad took me to a game. And I remember him talking about, my granddad had his sports day on the pitch. Like that's it was like properly part of a community when my granddad was growing up. And yeah, the school would just have their sports day there, and he said that the players often all lived on the streets around the ground, and you'd bump into them all the time, stuff like that. Is hearing that, and then uh, my dad's friends there as well who were watching as well. Um, meeting them, the drummer as well, the chants, like hearing those chants for the first time. I know that sounds silly, but you know, when you're an impressionable 12, 13-year-old kid, you think they're the funniest things in the world. Like when subs happen, who, like hearing that as a kid, you think it's hilarious, you know. And I remember just thinking this is just like the greatest experience ever. You know, and then again, I think I was very, very lucky in the fact we started watching, you know, or he started taking me when it was Mickey Adams. And from there, you know, I was very lucky in the fact that all I knew was success. Like, you know, we'd lose a game here and there, but the moment, you know, Al Fayed took over, it was just only way is up. And that's all I knew. So I thought, oh, wow, watching football's easy. This is great. We just keep winning and smashing records and getting promoted, you know, and then, you know, before we knew it, we were Premier League. And, you know, my friends were, you know, saying, oh, you know, Man United are playing Fulham now, or Arsenal playing Fulham. And suddenly I was like, yeah, it's actually really cool to support Fulham. Like I'm now, you know, we're playing with all the massive teams. And it was just, yeah, it was quick that. Like, I mean, you must remember, like, you know, going in those early days, and then suddenly before you knew it, man, we're surrounded by these absolute monoliths, these huge clubs, and we're going toe to toe with them. And it was just surreal, man. And, you know, and then you were looking back and you're going, God, it's only like a few years ago I was watching us lose to, like, you know, Gillingham or whatever, you know, in Division 3. And it's bizarre. Just such a unique story. And I was just so lucky to join it, I suppose, at that point. And, you know, have my dad take me, and yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I just about remember the pre-Al Fayed days. So
Yeah.
you know, it's only a couple of seasons of, you know, Division 4 woe and terror. You know, and it's like, and I remember, you know, those bad days. But I also remember, you know, I have some great memories as a young kid, sort of growing up. For me, I literally grew up every Saturday at the front of the Hammersmith end. So literally from being in a buggy where my dad used to leave me at the front in the buggy to, you know, being a teenager and coming to games by myself. Like I remember, like that I had that whole progression
Yeah.
in the Hammersmith end. So like it is amazing. It's true. I think that whole, you know, going from losing the teams like Gillingham and, you know, teams that don't even exist anymore to playing
Yeah.
in the Premier League. I remember getting excited about playing Blackburn in Division 1, like in Division 1. Like,
Yeah.
and to think that they'd won the Premier League only like a few years beforehand, and then now we're playing them. Somehow we're on the same level as them.
Yeah.
Was absolutely amazing. So to get into the Premier League was just amazing. I don't know about you, but I think the first day I ever had of that, where I felt that genuine feeling of I can't believe the players that were in front of us, was when we played Man United in the FA Cup, the one where Fabrice Fernandez scored that
Yeah.
absolutely amazing free kick. I think that was the first time I ever had that feeling of this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So
Unbelievable.
obviously,
Yeah. It's bizarre, isn't it?
you're
If you
now
think about how far
it's
we've come now, it's bizarre.
100%. 100%. Obviously, now we talk about like Fulham being in the Premier League, as we all sort of naturally feel this is our Premier League's our natural position where we should be. You know, we get disappointed when we've had those few seasons in the championships and stuff like that. But before we sort of go through that, obviously you've done that while working at the club, and it's been. I want to say congratulations to you, obviously, because you know this past weekend, as we're recording, sort of marked 10 years of you working for the club. Do you
Yeah.
sort of remember how that all came about and sort of how you got started and sort of what that was like?
Yeah. I mean, so I was doing pretty much presenting full time, mainly music TV, and at the same time season ticket at Fulham. And you know, all I did was my job was basically interviewing bands and doing all of that sort of stuff. And I remember like something came up on the Fulham site about do you fancy being a presenter joining Diddy on match days? If you think you've got what it takes, send a 40-second clip or a 45-second clip in of why you think you'd make a good match day presenter. And my dad rang me, literally. I saw it, and my dad rang me at the same time saying, "Have you seen this?" And it's literally, I'm not even joking. I was in YouTube, in the studios of YouTube, interviewing bands that day and drafting this email, like, because I saw this, I'm like, "Ah, man, that I have to do this job." And I think I said something like that. I probably got the email somewhere where I'm like, "Hey, my name's Ivan. I literally am a presenter. It's what I do. Here's my show reel," because I had a show reel, for work, and agent has it and all this sort of stuff. And it's literally just 2 minutes of me interviewing like every single pop band on the planet. And I sent that through, and I said, "But I don't want to cheat. If you still want me to do like a 45-second video, I will. But listen, you've got to give me this job. Like, I'm a season ticket holder there. I need this job." And and about a week or so later, I got a message inviting me to Motspur Park, just just for a chat, and I went and met some people, and I knew they were seeing a few people, like sort of 5 or 6 of us, and I obviously created a good impression because it was myself and Vic. I don't know if you remember Vic Hope, and she had also gone for it, who was also a presenter. Although she wasn't a Fulham fan, she was a Newcastle fan, but she was a presenter, so she kind of went for it as well. And they offered it to both of us as like a double header. And so this was the season before we got relegated. So this is actually 11 years ago. So I've technically been working at the club for 11 years, but then, and so we did those videos, but it was pretty hard. I remember thinking, I mean, it was, we got relegated. It was a season where everything was kind of going wrong, and we were really struggling. And we hadn't known that, had we? So all we'd known is success, 13 years in the Premier League. And suddenly I come in and I'm working, and we're trying to convince people to watch these match day videos with us in after we've lost again week after week. And it was really tough. And so I didn't necessarily think that beyond that we were going to still be there. And then obviously we got relegated, and I remember, God, I can't remember how it happened here, but I was called into the office about 3 or 4 weeks before the season was due to start. And I remember they said to me, they were like, Diddy wants to call it a day. And he said that that you're the replacement, you're our man. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible, and I would absolutely love to do it. God, yeah, it was really bizarre. I remember it being quite an emotional meeting, because I don't know, obviously I'm hearing Diddy's not going to be there as well, and he's the voice I grew up with watching it. But at the same point, I'm also hearing that he's recommended me, and a few times you sort of hear rumors that he was ready to call it a day and retire and stuff. But he was there going, Ivan's your man. He's the club through and through. And we used to have great conversations, me and him, like when I was there, just doing the presenting, not the announcing, and he'd be there in our meetings, and we just talk about so much cool stuff. He was brilliant. Oh man, Mr. Fulham, he was fantastic. And the one thing I said, I was like, yeah, 100%. I would definitely, I want this job more than anything. 100%. I'd be honored, absolutely honored. But can we do a video where people can see Diddy wants to leave, and we have a chat together, and I can chat to him about the job and stuff, so that people don't think he's being pushed out? Because I suppose at that time, a lot of redundancies happened. Half the team had gone, and I didn't want people to think it was a relegation thing, and Diddy was forced out or whatever. And so we did that, and then we started. And so it's been 10 years since that first game on the mic, which was Millwall, which we lost. First game of the championship of Felix Magath's championship reign, micro reign. And I can't believe it's been 10 years, man. Just insane. Like, longest I've ever had a job by about 6 years.
So obviously, I don't want to blow too much smoke up you, but obviously, in a previous series of this, we had Diddy on, and we heard Diddy's story about being a Fulham fan and a director, and all the jobs he'd done at Fulham throughout the years. And he talked so fondly about being a match day presenter and what he loved so much about it. And I did tweet on Saturday Saturday or Sunday when I saw your message about being 10 years, that he spoke so highly of you when we were speaking when I was speaking to him about the job, and he was just like, is that they asked me who should we ask, and he was like, there was only one person I could think of to speak to. So it's amazing that you said that, because he said that to me, and I think he was so complimentary of having you on. I think you, again, not trying to blow smoke up you, it's like such an impossible job, like to take
Mm.
over from someone like Diddy, who, let's be honest, he isn't just like a legend to us Fulham fans. Anyone who does presenting, anyone who listens to the radio, who grew up like
Yeah,
who grew up like would have heard his voice, and he's got such a distinctive voice, would have had it. So to take over from him is hard. To take
yeah,
over from him during that period when you did is hard. So I
yeah.
think that, it's just great that I think that for me, as you said, growing up, Diddy's the voice of Fulham match day.
Mm.
But for people like my daughter, you're the voice of match day, and I think that's so cool for you, especially because
Yeah,
obviously you have kids as well. That
yeah,
I know that they've been to some match days. I see you with them at the Fulham ladies game last year, the women's game last year. That they'll know that, and that's so cool personally for
yeah.
me to think that for you. Like, so I
I
think
that I think
you should
that's
be
what
proud of that.
is weird for me, like, because I'm with you on that kind of, it'll always be. I used to get goosebumps when I used to hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime," and you're like, "Oh man, the teens are coming out." And I used
Mm,
to genuinely get goosebumps. I used to be so buzzed, and then yeah, I think when it came to it, I can't tell you, man, weeks of not being able to sleep before that first game, and just adamant I was going to be booed off the moment I said something on the mic. Um, and I don't know. I think I just thought, look, you're never gonna like fill his shoes. You're never gonna, you know, you know, it is Diddy. I'm not
mm.
going to replace him to people. It's impossible. So I've just got to head down and I guess do it my own way, and just hope that people don't notice too much. And I think that was the main thing. I remember someone at Fulham saying after the first season, I think it was Jeff actually. He said, one of the best compliments we can pay you is after the first season doing this job, no one talks about you on the forums. Like if you go on any of the fan forums, they tend to complain a lot about a lot of things. No one talks about you. And he said, and I think that is probably the biggest compliment, that no one's going, "Oh God, Ivan," and I thought, oh, thank God for that. Cause I think, yeah, I kind of, I think if I tried to do anything too brash or different or trying to break the mold, I would have fallen flat on my face. But yeah, I think it's really nice though. A lot of younger fans as well coming up now. A lot of even people that are turning 20. They were, you know, they've known me since they were 10. Do you know what I mean? They've known that voice, and so that's get messages from people that like, "Oh, you interviewed me, when I was, coming up to the game with my dad, whatever, back in the day." And these are like 17, 18-year-old guys I'm talking to now. And it's cool, man. It's really special. It's a genuine honor. And it's something that, I tweeted something on the 10-year anniversary, just sort of saying, I'll never take it for granted. I can't, like, it's a total honor, mate. I can't tell you.
Mm, mm. Obviously, you also, as well as doing your match day presenting, you also do some more other presenting for Fulham. You also have your own Fulham podcast, you and Felix White, which is it's almost like a dream for someone like me who talks to people about Fulham. And my whole thing here is obviously getting to know people's Fulham stories and sort of finding out why people find the personal connection between themselves and the club so big, because it's what makes us Fulham, what makes you want to be a Fulham fan is so important to
Mm.
people, especially like to me. I love it. So watching you interview the people you interview on the podcast, it's so cool because you get to hear stories that you wouldn't normally know. You wouldn't hear people's sort of backgrounds. What's that been like? What's that been like? Sort of getting to speak to people that you wouldn't just have a normal conversation with, but you get to speak like solely about Fulham and their sort of experiences of the club.
Oh man, it's amazing. Like it just, yeah, unbelievable. Like proper like pinch me moments with that. I mean, it's one thing sort of being asked to do a podcast for literally the club you love, but then being told, like, you know, what we want to do is every episode we're going to have like a Fulham guest on, whether it's an ex-player, a current player, or like a celeb, and you know, we can just go, you know, dive headfirst into it. And it's just, yeah, it's, I mean, again, it's another one of those things where I'm like, not quite sure how I got this lucky to be doing this, you know. Like I really, and there was moments like the first episode we did, it was Berbatov, and I remember thinking at the time, I'm like just sitting there as we rolled into the second hour with Dimitar Berbatov, and he just wouldn't stop talking. A guy that we had been told before, oh, he's not a big talker, and when he was at Fulham, he probably spoke to, you know, the press, the Fulham press side of things for like maximum like 6 minutes into, you know, a year and a half or whatever. And he just couldn't stop him talking, and he just wanted to talk about everything, and all those moments, you know, that touch where he plucked it out of the sky, or, you know, where he, you know, keep calm and pass me the ball. All of those moments, he wanted to talk about it all, and he wanted to go into all this detail. And I'm like, oh man, this is, you know, insane. And he would have stayed, honestly, like he would have kept talking. I can't remember why we ended up stopping in the end. I think probably running out of card space. But yeah, it's a total just, man, it's an absolute dream. And you know what? In every season, like we've got some luck coming up in the new season, obviously. But every season there's sort of, we're compiling like a dream list of players or people we want to get on, and it's happening. You know, we're getting in contact with these people, and they all want to do it, and it's just awesome. Like I can't tell you, like it's an absolute buzz. And my favorite so far, I think, has been Bobby Zamora, because I mean, I loved him as a player. I thought he was unbelievable, and I loved the fact he made the England squad. And I remember thinking, like, finally, I get to watch England with a Fulham player in it, like with some Fulham representation. And you know, he was brilliant. He was just an absolute, he just had just such an incredible kick. Like, he was just strong. He was confident, and yeah, man. And I remember I remember getting him on the podcast, and just it being like, it's the only one of the podcasts that I've listened back to more than once that we've done. Like, I've probably listened to it back about 3 times because it makes me laugh so much. He's so funny in it, and again, just wants to talk about anything. And even after, you know, his message saying, "Mate, loved it, and you know, anything else I can do, just shout." You know, you know, I'm thinking, man, he come on again, brilliant. But yeah, honor. I can't tell you. I mean, you know, yeah, it's just,
It's
yeah,
cool. It's cool. Like, I've obviously I've watched every episode of it since it started coming out, because obviously it's what most Fulham fans do. You know, you know what it's like being a Fulham fan growing up. There's not loads of Fulham content, so
yeah,
when it is there, you sort of try to take in as much as you can. I've absolutely loved it. You know,
oh, brilliant.
I think that it's great to hear from so many Fulham legends. You know, I think my favourite so far has been Chris Coleman, mainly just because anyone who supported Fulham in the 90s absolutely loved the man.
Yeah,
And I genuinely remember as a 12-year-old boy, when the news came through about his crash, crying about it, like cried
yeah,
about it. So, you know, it's one of those things that, like, to hear those people and hear those stories around the club and their love for it has been, it's absolutely amazing. So I'm
yeah.
glad you guys are doing some more, because it is brilliant. Let's go back to talking about you, obviously, and about your love of Fulham. One of the questions I always ask people and getting to know you is about their match day routine. Obviously, it's going to be slightly different for you because your match day routine is not involved actually going to games. So, what is a sort of typical match day for you? Sort of, how does it work?
So I tend to get there about 3 hours before kickoff. So if it's a 3 o'clock kickoff, I'll rock up about sort of 12 o'clock, and yeah, just you know, once I'm in, I have to go in kind of the side of the cottage, the security entrance towards the hammy end. So I go in that side, and I tend to stop and talk to quite a lot of people on the way down, just because, you know, it's always nice to. And so it takes me a while to get from one end of the cottage to the press box at the other end, where we'll basically get my script, and you know, I'll go through things like, what's needed, anything new reading out and sort of stuff like that, or halftime entertainment, what's that going to be, whether it's Forever Fulham Award or if it's a halftime giveaway shirt giveaway competition, things like that. So we'll go through the script, and then basically once it's really as simple as just sort of chilling in the office for a bit, going through the script and any sort of shout outs, birthday shout outs. I'm sort of trying to write those down if there's any new ones, and get a bit of food as well before. And then just before I head down, the team lineups come out. So we'll print off the team lineups up there, and I will go through with there's a couple of people in the office that are really good with name pronunciations. It's not as hard in the Premier League, but in the Championship it's a bit different. There's a few players you might not be as familiar with. So we'll sort of go through pronunciations, and I'll end up sort of squiggling all over my team lineup, to make sure I'm getting the pronunciations correct. And then, then literally about an hour before kickoff, I'm on the mic, and we start the, start that kind of match day routine in that sense, build up to kickoff. So the only difference really, I used to come obviously with my dad. We used to go to often the Half Moon in Putney. We'd stop there and we'd park around there, then walk over the river. That's what we used to do before I worked at the club. Now he goes with my neighbour, and so I basically drop him at that area, the Half Moon, and so they've got a good hour or two of drinking before they're due to sort of see me at the cottage, and I'll drive them home afterwards. So I suppose that aspect I miss a bit. But then we go to away games, and we went to Brentford last year, me and Dad, and I still gives me good reason to book some good away days as well. So but that's my typical match day routine.
Obviously, doing that job, like I think the hardest thing for me if I was in your position would be having the mic in my hand after we just scored. Like what is that like? What is that like? How do you sort of how hard have you found it to keep calm during certain moments, to be able to have to speak, or like how do you do that?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. How have I don't know. I suppose there were certain points, certainly, like in the I'm trying to think. I have to take a lot of deep breaths before I say anything. I have to gather myself, because I still celebrate. I'll jump up, I'll celebrate, I'll then take a moment. I'm not holding the mic at that point. I deliberately have it on the floor so I can't toss it in the air or say anything too quickly. So then I take a moment. It takes a while to switch on. It's a good sort of 5 seconds. So in that moment, I just sort of try and gather myself and make sure I've got the right goal scorer, because I don't want to be announcing. Also make sure with VAR that it's actually a definite goal. That helps with a bit of time there. But there's definitely been a few moments where I felt my voice go, for sure, because I yelled it so hard, or I'd celebrated so hard before I'd, put the mic. I think when we beat Chelsea, when we beat Chelsea, it was last season. God, my memory now. Was it season before? Season before now, wasn't it? Yeah. That was one where I was really kind of felt my voice go. And when I was announcing the full-time score and reading that, I was choked up. I was like, we don't beat Chelsea. That was huge what's just happened there. That really got me. And then the season in the Championship as well, with just all the relentless goals and that last game against Preston, and all these records, all these things I had to read out, and getting to almost read them all out in one game. Unbelievable. So I think there's a few things. Like I said, I don't hold the mic all the time. I keep it on the floor. And I've got a bit of time between celebrating with everyone else. You're also finding that sweet spot. You kind of want the second cheer. So, everyone's going nuts. They're celebrating the goal. The players celebrating and, Craven Cottage. And as the sound starts to dip a bit, that's when I want to say, Fulham goal scorer. And then so people go for a second cheer. You don't want to get it lost in that first cheer. And that way kind of elongates it all, and keeps it going. It's brilliant. So, Yeah, that's how in theory. But I have definitely on some occasions celebrated far too hard and messed my voice up. Not as much as Gentleman Jim, who seems to celebrate so hard that half the time his voice is gone by by the end of the game. If you ever listen to some of those moments, unbelievable.
I think I've heard Gentleman Jim start games sounding like he's been shouting in the warm ups. So
Yeah,
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 no, I understand that. Like for me, I just couldn't imagine what that's like because I remember I've been at games where I've heard you announce the goal score while we're still celebrating at the back of the Hammersmith end, and it's been like how to think that to keep your composure enough to do it is just amazing. Like
yeah.
it, it's fun to talk about. Obviously, the last question I always like to ask everybody when we talk about your personal sort of moments it's about match day superstitions. Now, as a fan, do you have a sort of particular match day superstition that you have?
Do you know what? I don't really, if I'm honest. I've never been one for those. Like I'll always wear, if I go to an away game, I'll always wear my old like Demon Internet top that I bought as a kid. So I'll always wear that. But there's nothing, yeah, I don't actually have any superstitions. I suppose like the closest I get to a superstition is a routine. And so it would have been going to the Half Moon Putney. But no, I'm not yeah, I've not really had one of those. To be honest. Do you then?
No, I see. This is the thing. I don't, but I know a lot of people that have
Mm.
loads. Like me and my cousin used to have one where we always used to just before the game started, we'd always shake hands and say that the score's going to be 3-1. Don't know why. We did it one time, and I think we did it one time. We beat Man United, and then it sort of just continued for about 4 or 5 years naturally, as those sort of things do. But there are some from doing the show. Some people have some amazing superstitions that
Mm.
they'll wear certain socks, and I was did an episode with Greg Crutwell, the guy who the actor, and he was saying that the guy who sits next to him, if we're ever losing a game, no, it might have been his son. They're losing a game, takes off his socks. Like it's just one of those things that
Yeah.
I always like to hear because you're either one of those people that have no superstitions or you're one of those people that have really really funny ones, and I just
Yeah.
love hearing them really. But we're gonna
Like
move.
the Pereira one of Kaka's shorts that he always wears Kaka's shorts like before, and like that was like weird. But he does it, and he
Uh,
does it every game, and without fail has Kaka shorts on for a bit. So
to be fair, if I owned a pair of Kaka shorts, I probably would as well, just for the
yeah,
sake of
that would be my
having them.
superstition
But
too. Yeah,
no, yeah, yeah. We're gonna move on to your top threes, which is just basically just your own personal preferences and sort of memories of Fulham. So, going into them, the first set of top threes is always my favorite one to talk about. Was your top three favorite Fulham goals? So, I know it's not always the easiest thing to come up with off the top of your head, but what are your top three favorite Fulham goals?
So I think I would say that it would be Dennis Adoy's header against Derby to send us to Wembley, because it was just the most insane, I don't know, header I've ever seen, like slow motion, the way it sort of falls back into the net. The fact that I had it happened at a time where I was lucky enough to be on the mic and, announce that we were off to Wembley and that's one of them without a doubt. This is I was going to say this is an obvious one, and it is an obvious one, and you must have this so much on this podcast is the Clint Dempsey Juventus goal, just because it was just so outrageous, and we managed to do the unthinkable in under 90 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And beat this absolute giant of football at the Cottage. Yeah. So that's number two. And another one, which is a bit more personal, I think, for me, was it was that last goal against Luton to make it 7-0 and to win the championship. And yeah, and I think and for that, for me, it's because I had this like list of stuff towards the end of the season, like it, if we score the 100th goal, you have to say this. When Mitrovic broke that first record, you have to say this. And the last thing I had on this clipboard of things to say was if Mitrovic broke that second record to make 43 goals, and bear in mind, I think that final goal went in 94th minute, was it?
Yeah, it was late. It was
Yeah,
late.
really late. And it was like at that point I kind of resigned myself to the fact that wasn't getting read out. And then literally right at the end, in it goes, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like it's meant to be. I've completed this thing they gave me in the last sort of few months. And again, it was just one of those surreal moments. We were like, we've just won 7-0 again in the championship. We're now lifting the championship trophy at the Cottage with this group of players. And although we'd been up and down a couple of times before that, and obviously Wembley, which was unbelievable, this felt a bit different. It felt really special. It felt that I don't know, there was something about it, maybe it was the fact that it was the fact we were we were champions and we were going up as champions, Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think going over your 3 goals, obviously the first 2 for me, they have something really, really something in common, which is, and you mentioned it with the Dennis Doy goal. It's a slow motion factor. There's some goals that happen when you go to games that just the moments between the ball being hit and the ball going in just feel like they last forever.
Yeah,
And both of those goals were just that. Like the Dennis Doy header was just, it felt like it took about a year to go in, and the
yeah,
Clint Dempsey chip probably about 4. I think I might have checked my watch about 3 times between Dempsey chipping it and it going in. Like
yeah,
it's one of those absolutely surreal moments. And for someone like me who, growing up, I loved Italian football, and Juventus were
mm,
the team I loved. So they, it was so surreal to be in that
yeah,
position
yeah,
to score that goal. Like it was absolutely amazing. And then obviously the third one, from the personal point of view for you, and talking about Mitro, I think for me is one that goal was special because my daughter, it was probably actually the last game she's been to that the men have played, that to share that moment of,
mm,
we knew we'd won the game, we knew we'd won the league, and we knew we were about to win and score the trophy. But I think for that last 15 minutes of the game, almost everyone was just, can Mitro get that goal? Can Mitro get that goal? And for
yeah,
it to come, I think the collective relief around the place was
yeah,
just absolutely astonishing. And I think we all absolutely overjoyed that he managed to get it for him and for us. And I think we'd all got bored of hearing about Guy Whittingham's record, and it's about time that someone beat it. So yeah, I agree that there's 3 really good goal
yeah.
choices,
I don't
for
think.
that
Can you
reason.
see anyone beating that record, Mitro's record, anytime soon?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It's one of those things, and that he was just a machine that year, wasn't he? There was
Mm,
so many games where he didn't just score 1; he'd score 2, 3, and
mm,
4 in some cases where he just, you know, yeah. I think that season we all should have known that was on when he scored against Huddersfield in the opening game of the season by the ball just hitting him. So I think we should have known
yeah.
that something was
It's just
going on there.
bouncing off him into the net. Yeah, there's something different happening
He,
this season. Yeah, yeah.
he
Cool.
couldn't miss, could he? And I think it's one of those things. It's funny you talk about the 100th goal as well. Like the season that came again, that TC scored. That you know, it, there was just such a special day. That whole
Yeah,
day was so special. So yeah, I agree. That's good. The next category in our top threes is your top 3 favorite Fulham kits. Now, obviously, some people go off of this from design and just the fashion sense, and some people go off the memories that those kits give you.
yeah.
But if you had to, you're going away for 3 days on a football trip for the weekend. You've got to take 3 Fulham kits with you to wear. What 3 Fulham kits would you take?
So I would take my Demon Internet, one, the OG, my OG from God, which one was? I'm trying to get the right year in my head now, but it would have been 99 to 2000, I believe. Pizza Hut, just because it's a classic, and I remember around that time, I was at uni in Epsom, and I went into the Pizza Hut in Epsom, and Steed Malbronk was in there eating pizza with his family, and he signed a Pizza Hut napkin for me. And I have that somewhere. I need to dig it out because, if someone could tell me now, like, if I could bump into him now, it'd make finding Steed a lot easier because that man doesn't exist anymore. I swear to God. And then I really love the Kappa kit, third kit, black with the gold stripe across. And I mean, that's about 10 years old, 11 years old now, is it? That one, which then I really like the Kappa kits. And I really like that one in particular because we hadn't really had anything like that before. And there was a guy I played five-a-side football with who bought it as well. And when I saw it in person, I'm like, yeah, man, that's a filthy kit. That is beautiful. And we haven't really had anything like it since, but there's something about that Kappa kit and the fit of it. But then it's the black and it's the gold. It just class. And I can see Berbatov in it as well. I think, there's something, maybe it's that link, that classy link, and the fact that Berbatov was such a classy player. And yeah, that's my third.
I think it was funny there as you automatically there go, oh, I see Berbatov in it, and I'm sitting there going, I see Chris Baird in it.
Oh, do
But
you?
it's one of those ones. I do that kit is it's one of my. I didn't really like the Kappa kits. For someone who's larger, the Kappa kits were a nightmare to
Oh,
wear.
I know what you
So
mean. Yeah, yeah. They
I
stick,
hated
don't
wearing
they?
them.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and so they weren't my favorites, but that one I did like. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
And then obviously your two other kits, the Pizza Hut kit. The Pizza Hut kit is funny because I've said it on the show before. It's usually everyone's like number one because it's one of those kits that, like the Wolves Dorito kit, that if you show somebody a picture of that kit, took the Fulham badge off, took the Adidas badge off, just showed them the white kit with the Pizza Hut logo, they'll know straight away that's a Fulham shirt.
Yeah,
And it's one of
100%.
those ones that everyone just loves it. For me, I loved the away kit that year more than I like the home kit. The black and red. I'm so happy with this year's away kit. I have been
Yeah,
an advocate for Fulham playing in black and white, black and red stripes as
yeah.
away kit for ages because it just
Smart, isn't it?
I love it.
It looks
Yeah,
good, doesn't it? Looks really nice.
in fact, all three of our kits this year are pretty spot on. Like
Yeah,
I think whoever's been choosing the club's been choosing kit designs the last couple of years, they've done a great job of picking into it. So and then obviously the Demon Internet kit, which is obviously the Division One winning shirt, isn't it? It's
yeah. That's it.
the how can you not love that shirt, man? It's like
Oh,
it's got like it's everything about it. The old badge, the players that we saw wear it. Like it's just there's so many moments for me in that kit that are just beyond magic. That
yeah,
for anyone who was lucky enough to be going to football, going to Fulham at that age when we were wearing those kits, there's so many memories in those shirts that are just absolutely boundless. Like especially that Demon Internet kit. You talk about Mitro and steamrolling the league, wearing that kit and doing the exact same thing under Tagana, which is it's just magical, wasn't it? And I always say that I remember that kit mainly because it was the first year that I was allowed to get a player's name on the back of my shirt. The year before, we were allowed to have players' names on the back of our shirts. My auntie used to buy our kits, but I wanted Paul Pescasolido, and she was refusing to pay the 50p a letter they used to
I was about to
charge.
say they charged
So,
per letter though, didn't they? Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I didn't get a player's name on my shirt that year. But that year, um, I got Sean Davis on the back of my shirt. Number 23 is my lucky number as well. So, Sean Davis 23. What a year that was, man! It's
Yeah,
an
man.
absolutely great choice of kits, and I think that it's hard to pick Fulham kits because we've had some beauties
Mm.
over the last 20 years, and we've had some stinkers as well. But I think it's a great choice. We're going to go into like your top three favorite Fulham games. Now, obviously, these don't necessarily have to be games that we've won. It's just more about, if you had to pick three games to go back and watch again, because you're bored, what three games would you choose?
So it would be, again, I know I mentioned it because of the goal, but Derby semi-final, taking us to Wembley, knowing we were going to Wembley, the pitch invasion, just everything about it. I just, final whistle, board. We went in 1-0 down, didn't we? And it was just,
Mm-hmm.
we were still 1-0 down at half time, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And then Cess pulls that out, slams one into the net from like close range. Oh, it's lovely to have Cess back. Slams it into the net, and then obviously the Adoy header, and then, at that point you're like, oh my God, are we actually going to do this? And under Slav, the way we were playing as well, you just thought, oh, this is fantastic. This is special. And I remember being on the pitch. I remember someone from Sky saying to me, well, do you think there'll be a pitch invasion if you win? This is towards the end. This is the guy in the dugout. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. It's not, I didn't even think that there would be, because, well, I don't know. I just had not seen one at Fulham for, well, God knows how long, but I just didn't think there would be. And then literally final whistle. So he was like, oh, okay. Final whistle, just everyone on the pitch. And I had loads of friends and family there for that one as well. And then I remember just being picked up in the air by Marcus Bettinelli. And I just thought, fucking hell, what have we done? This is incredible. This is spectacular. So that definitely for me. Again, it's such a cliche. Wembley, getting to, it might not have always been the prettiest game, but getting to Wembley, Villa, there, Fulham saying to me, you've got basically, was it 8 minutes with the Fulham fans that you get to stand on the pitch at Wembley and address the Fulham fans, and then finally doing it. Again, so many of my friends and family there, 1-0 up through a goal we've seen so many times, but, a style of play, Sessignon to Kearney and a goal we'd scored so many times that season in that way. And it was like, can we do it? And then having a Doy sent off, and then having to hold on for was like the longest 25 minutes in the world. And then I just remember the image of Kearney in the center of the pitch, like he heard the whistle first. Like when the ref's final whistle went, because he was right by the ref, it's like he reacts before anyone else, and then just starts running towards the white wall. And even now, I remember just being in floods of tears. And the guy that's, I suppose, my immediate boss at Fulham, who's also a massive Fulham fan, just again, tears. And we're just like, we've done it. That's it. We're out the Championship. We're I couldn't believe it. Unbelievable. So that would be number 2. And number 3 would be Hamburg semi-final, which, just again, 1-0 down. Just something about that game. There was, my granddad had just died as well. And, I think he died in the February, and this was this May or April? I can't remember the exact day. When was it?
I think it was the end of May.
Was
I
it end of
don't
May?
remember the exact date. I don't remember the exact date either, but yeah.
But I remember couldn't believe that he wasn't around to see us make it to a final. And I remember saying to my dad afterwards, it doesn't even matter if we win the final or not. We've proved we can get to a final. like a massive final. Like, we're there. Like, I know that's such a silly thing to say, but I just remember thinking, win or lose, it doesn't really matter. We got to the final. I just never thought I'd see it. And like I said, because my granddad wasn't there for that, there was something quite, I don't know. Yeah, me and Dad had a moment. We were in the where did we get? I think we only got tickets in the Putney end because it was so packed. Like you were just trying to get tickets anywhere. It was just like gold dust, but it was never seen so many grown men cry. And then shit, man. Then going to watch the highlights afterwards. That commentary, I hear the commentary to this day. It's still gives me goosebumps. So those are my 3 games.
I think they're a good set of 3 choices. Really, I think that Hamburg for obviously personal reasons for you is a massive game, and for me, I had a similar thing to you than that with both the Hamburg game and the win at Wembley, in the sense of for me growing up, I was brought to Fulham by my auntie who we lost, who'd been going to Fulham since the 60s, and she was the biggest Fulham fan. I can't even explain to anyone how much a massive Fulham fan she was. Like, she's literally responsible for about 30 season ticket holders now. Like, that's how big she was
Really?
of a Fulham fan. Yeah, and when we were growing up, and we had that thing. You used to get teased for supporting Fulham because like we were lower division Fulham. Like, why would you support Fulham? Especially where I grew up in Wandsworth, where everyone around me is a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
Like we we used to get teased for being a Fulham fan, and uh, winning at Wembley was special because when we were growing up, she always told us that one day you'll get to see Fulham play and win at Wembley. It will happen in your lifetime. Don't worry. So to get there uh, was emotional, and I remember at full time I was crying. So
Yeah.
not even happy that we'd won. I was so happy that we won.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like everyone was, but I was crying like I don't think I've ever cried in my life. And I did
Yeah.
the same thing at the full-time whistle against Hamburg because, uh, one, because she wasn't there, and it was just a case of, same thing as you, like the emotion of it, and two, just being like, I was so proud, so proud of being a Fulham fan
Yeah.
at that
Totally.
moment. It was just like the emotion of that brought in because being a fan of a club like Fulham, we've all heard, like, why do you support Fulham? Why would you be a Fulham fan? Why
Mm.
this? Why that? And I think that moment alone justifies every single time I got asked that question. Because if you're a Chelsea fan and you've just got to a Europa League final, you're probably disappointed. In fact, when they got to the final a year later, I think their fans were disappointed because they wanted
Yeah.
Champions League. But for us, it was everything. Like, it was
Yeah.
literally so big. And then obviously the Dennis Adoy derby game for you working obviously is nuts. And I'm one of those, but I didn't partake in the pitch invasion. I was sat at the back of the Hammersmith end with my daughter and just sort of trying to get her to take it all in and just be
Mm.
like this because she was only 8 at the time. So it was like just take it all in because it's magic, and
Yeah.
we don't get many of these moments at Fulham. In fact, I remember quite clearly being told by a lot of family members that Fulham don't win playoff games, and it's not what we do.
Yeah.
So you know, it to be in your position, obviously, and working and being surrounded by that, and the pitch after the game is almost your working space. So to have that many people sort of encroach on it, and must have been absolutely amazing.
It was, man. Honestly, it was spectacular, and yeah, your aunt sounds awesome as well, man. I get that. I feel that. That's those moments. It feels like really it's football has a very special way of making you feel those feelings. There's something quite, as sad as it is in those moments, there's something quite beautiful about it. And I remember, like, like you're saying there was definitely sadness, but tinged with I don't know, just I don't know, the ethereal. There's something beautiful about
Mm.
being this little club, Fulham, that, you know, my granddad would have wandered down to when he was a kid, and, you know, dragged my dad down to when he was a kid, who then subsequently dragged me down to when I was a kid. And, you know, and then, you know, we're being told, you know, Hamburg will host the final, Fulham will play in it. And yeah, you get those moments, you think of those people that the reason you're there in the first place, and the reason you're getting to feel those feelings and those emotions for this beautiful club. So yeah, man, I feel that.
Yeah, we're going to move on to the last section of the personal top threes, which is your favorite personal memories of Fulham. Now, these don't have to be match based; these can be literally just any time around the club, sort of moments for you that, you know, sort of almost compound why you're a Fulham fan and why the club is so special to you.
So, oh god, let me have a little think of this. I think I mean, there's been a few like ones that always make me laugh. There was, I don't know if you remember when the Michael Jackson statue first went up, and I remember it was on Have I Got News for You, and it was was it Ian Hislop talking about the fact he had seen a Fulham fan being interviewed on the news, who had simply responded, "Why us? Why us?" And that made me laugh so much at the time, because there was a feeling of like, oh, really? Why have we got a Michael Jackson statue? Really? Why does it have to be us that has a Michael Jackson statue? I know that sounds really stupid, but I remember also being oddly proud. And then hearing this response, the fact we had made it to Have I Got News for You as well, which was a show at the time that I really loved, and it was being talked about on there. And, you know, the fact a fan was on national television just going, why us? You know, and yeah. So I know that sounds really weird, but the Michael Jackson statue moment, and the fact it was such a terrible statue, like it you know, it wasn't. It was just made no sense, really. You know, a guy that rocked up for a match that, you know, I'm not sure he watched it all. And, you know, I get the Al Fayed connection, but yeah, that always makes me laugh. There was another time where we played Liverpool, and this was in the cup. This would have been, we were the old Division 1, I believe, at the time. I can't remember which cup competition. You'll know way better than me. My memory for this could be really hazy. But I remember a friend up the road had Sky TV, and they were Liverpool fans. And they said I could come and watch it. And I remember it was quite awkward because I didn't know them very well, like at all. But I sat there and I just wanted to see this game. And this was the one where Paul Pescasolido scored a goal, seemingly like, I mean, in my memory as a young kid, he was almost next to the corner flag. I know he wasn't, but he just scored this goal from the right wing, I think, and it just sort of curled in to the far, and it was an absolute world-class goal, and it put us, I believe, 1-0 up on the telly against Liverpool. And for me, that was like one of the first times I'd seen us play a really big club. And I don't know, there was something in that, and I lost all inhibitions. I was in this person's house who I didn't really know very well, and I just celebrated so hard. I celebrated in their face. It's like, you know, it's my boy Paul Pescasolido. He's just scored this absolute worldly on the telly. I think we went on to lose 2 or 3-1 in the end, but
4-1. We lost 4-1.
4-1. There we go. So I thought you'd have a better memory for it. What was that? What were we the old Division 1 at that point?
No, we were in Division 2.
Was it Division 2? Even better now, man.
Oh, see, my memory of that game was it was the first time I'd ever been to an away game at a Premier League stadium. And I remember just being in absolute awe of it. And in typical Fulham fashion, it being an absolute mare, because we went up on the club train. It broke down. We missed the first 15 minutes of the game. Just about got in time to see Pescislido score. But what an experience it was, man.
Yeah.
It was such a little old Fulham at Anfield at that time was just
Yeah.
absolutely immense. Go on, and give us your third one as well. Your third moment.
So many moments, but before the start of the season before last, I was picking my dad up from a party of his, and the guy whose party it was is one of my dad's old friends from school, massive Chelsea fan, just insufferable, like just the worst like especially after a few drinks, just the worst person with regards to, I don't know, just little old Fulham, and then
Yeah.
we don't even think of you as a rival. You're just little Fulham. We like you guys, and it gives it all this sort of. Anyway, he was being just absolutely insufferable, and I said to him, "I'm like, man, you're losing Abramovich." I said, "You're going to struggle more than you realize." And I remember he laughed in my face. I remember specifically because he laughed so hard in my face, I could smell what he had eaten. Like, that's how annoying it
Oh,
was. Like, you've got to really understand. And I like the guy usually, but when he does that, it really does my head in. And I said, but I was like the only one sober because I was driving my dad home. And I said, do you know what? I'm willing to bet right now that you are going to struggle so hard. I said, we're actually going to beat you this season. And he laughed even more. Like, honestly, and I went one further. I said, I think we're going to finish above you in the table. And I'm not even sure at the time I believed any of it. Like, but he was so annoying and he was really pissing me off. And then what then unfolded was just a joy. And there was something about it. It's like Fulham had heard my call. Do you know what I mean? Like, they said, yeah, we got this. Don't you worry. And like I said, beating Chelsea was one thing. I mean, that really was special. And I think we didn't lose. We drew at Stamford Bridge as well that season as well, didn't we?
yeah.
And again, Ash, you're going to have to remind me here. Were we one place above them?
Oh, I think we finished two places above. I think we
Two
finished.
above? Was it two
I think
above
it
them?
was two above them. Yeah, it
I
might
mean
have been.
that.
It might have been a bit closer, but we could have been one place. It could have been 100 places. It didn't matter. We finished above them.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I literally, and I literally said, Dad, have you called him yet? Have you called him yet? Like, we need to, and yeah, like whether he has actually called him. My dad's quite modest with that stuff, but I found him so insufferable that night, like worse than ever. And then the fact that it was like, I don't know, Fulham had heard my cry for help and pulled something awesome out the bag. And I know that Chelsea were pretty dreadful that season, whatever. But the reality is, we still took 4 points off them. We finished above them in the league, and it was like, oh, it felt so good, and it felt so Fulham. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. That here's a bit of insider knowledge for everyone. Like, my stepdad is a Chelsea fan.
Okay.
My half of my family are Chelsea fans. My family is split down the middle, half of Fulham, half of Chelsea. And I love those moments. That we don't get those moments very often,
We don't, mate. We
but to
really don't.
have those moments is magic. And it's one of those things that I'm not one of those people that I'm going to lord it over the fact we beat Chelsea. I'm not going to be texting all my mates being like, "Ha, you're rubbish," like, because I know that next season will probably that'll come back and bite me in the bum. But
I don't know, man.
I think I
They're
think I was
struggling,
about five.
man.
I think I was about 5 foot taller after the game, and
Yeah.
I do definitely remember leaving Stamford Bridge after the 0-0. Was like a week and a half after, wasn't it? It wasn't even that far. It wasn't that long after the game that we played. Both our games were quite close to each other, and just bumping into somebody I used to go to school with, and he was just like, "Oh, why are you guys celebrating a 0-0 draw?" It's like, you guys spent 1.2 billion pound in the summer and you finished below us. Like, you're finishing below
So
us. Like,
true, man.
I'd calm down a bit.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. And then having a dad who's a stepdad who's a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
I don't think he's forgiven me because his son is my brother Bradley is a Fulham season ticket holder. And
Nice.
so. I
Bradley's
won
a
that
hero.
man. What is it? Yeah, Bradley is, and he'll love hearing that. It's one of
Yeah,
those things.
no,
But
seriously,
and
that's great.
obviously going over those sort of moments, it's always quite funny because we always talk about this when we talk about the show and about why people are Fulham fans, and those are the moments that sort of back it up. It's those, we don't have we have very rare moments where we get to lord it over people, or we get to, be have those arguments with people where it's just like, well, what have
Mm,
you won? What is this? What is that? Because that's not the type of fan base or the type of club we are. I think we're a bit above that almost in the sense of, we take pride in what we are and we know who we
yeah.
are. So, I think your moments sort of, I think they sort of scream that really, don't they? That, you take the
I
victories when you get them and you just live with it.
I think so, man. I think so. Like I say, that was just the Chelsea thing, just particularly, I don't know. That was quite huge for me. I remember thinking at the time, like, yeah, I don't know. I'd
I
never
was
felt
I,
proud of our team.
I wasn't that bad that night. Not as bad as I was when Lewis Bomway scored and we beat them
Yeah,
in 2013 or wherever it was. Like
yeah.
it was like then I was bad because I had school the next day, like on the Monday, and I remember, my secondary school was in Putney, and I remember walking into the playground on the Monday with my Fulham shirt over my school shirt under my blazer, taking it off and just standing in the middle of the playground with like just my
Mate,
arms aloft,
that
like
is
look at
huge.
me.
That is
Like
huge.
it didn't get many of those moments. So
No, we don't.
it's sort.
This is it. We don't. And do you know what's remarkable about Marco Silva and this team? Even with the 13 years we had in the Premier League, we really didn't get many of those moments. Like we
Mm,
weren't ever, we beat the teams that we should have beaten. We went toe to toe with the teams we should have gone toe to toe with, but we were always pretty respectful and consistently lost against the Arsenals, the Chelseas, the Man United. We had a couple of good results against Man United over the 13 years, but for the most part, it was typical. We'd go to United, we wouldn't get a result. So what's remarkable about this team and Marco Silva and how he's got us playing is we're now able to go to these places which we've gone to over the last sort of 20 years or so, and we expect to be in every single game and we expect to get possibly a result. And I think Arsenal last season, the team closest to challenging Man City for the title, you know we took 4 points off them. Unbelievable. Beat Man United away at Old Trafford and thrash Spurs at our place. All in one season. Do you know what I mean? And it's I think it's in. I think he. I hope we hold on to him for as long as possible, Marco Silva, because I think he really has put this kind of mentality into the team he's built, but also the fans now are going into every game. Like I felt really confident with Man United. Like I was like, yeah, we're gonna beat United here. Like the build up to the game, I really thought we'd do it. We lost 1-0. I think we're unlucky. I think there's obviously still work to be done for us, in certain departments, but we're in a really it's a really interesting time for Fulham because we are, I don't know, this kind of feelings changed. It feels like we could win anything. We could beat anyone, and that's I think that's new. That's not something I felt before. I always felt we were very respectful of clubs like United and Liverpool and Arsenal and Chelsea, and subsequently we very very rarely got anything at any of those places. You know, but now we're not. Do you know what I mean?
100%. We talk about it all the time on our podcast that, we feel like the inferiority complex we sometimes had is completely disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. And I think
Yeah.
that one of the things that has been so great under Marco, especially, is seeing how we take games to bigger clubs.
Mm.
Obviously, there's certain clubs that you can't do that to. We you can't do that to Man City because they have a bench that costs more than anything we could ever amount, and it's hard to do. But it's great we still give it a go, and we still have a go. It just doesn't always work. And, I think we got the rewards last year. The results against Tottenham, both in the cup and in the league. The results away Arsenal and at home against Arsenal were matter of fact to the fact that, they play like they believe. And
Yeah.
we've been into games in the past where even some of the greatest teams we have, even under Roy Hodgson, who, is absolutely beloved by everyone. We went into certain games where you knew that we didn't stand a chance,
Mm.
because it's just like we set up to not lose. And I don't think Marco plays that way. And
No.
we all love it, and I love him for it.
Yeah. 100%, man. It's an exciting time. It really is. And I just, like I said, I just hope that we'll certainly enjoy these moments. I don't know how long they'll last for. Hopefully a nice long time, but you know what football's like. So, he's a remarkable manager. And I think, we've made some very cool signings. Hopefully we'll make a few more in the next week or so. And I think it's going to be a really exciting season. Hopefully top half of the table, which would be incredible progress. But, we'll see, man. Exciting times.
Yeah, exactly, man. As the song goes, he's a genius, and we all gotta
He
love
is.
him for it. We'll
Absolutely.
move on. We'll move on to our last section. You at the club, and you present them. You'll have your Forever Fulham Awards. We like to have something here called the FFC&Me Cult Hero Hall of Fame. Now, the Hall of Fame is literally, it can be anyone who's worked or played for the club. It doesn't have to be a player, but it's the one person that for you absolutely epitomizes Fulham Football Club, and the reason why you love the club as much as you do. So you're the first person on the new series. So there's absolutely nobody in our current season 3 Hall of Fame. So you can then, there's no one there to stop you or to who's already in there. So you can enter literally anyone you would like into the
All
FFC.
right. Okay. I'm hoping no one's done this one before, but I'm going to say Gentleman Jim. Has anyone ever said Gentleman Jim before?
It's been put in by a few, especially by our like American guests and
Has
stuff.
he?
But yeah, he has. But you feel free to put him in because you'll have
Well,
a
he's,
reason for it.
he's going in, and I think the reason why is because he was the voice my granddad used to hear on match days when he sat in the stadium, but his eyesight had pretty much all gone, and he had the headphones on, and he was listening to it. He is the voice that we listen to week in, week out. The fan that celebrates so hard. I mean, you really feel the kind of the passion and the love he has, and so many moments where he has been all of us in his commentary, like absolutely all of us. That the down to 10 men against Norwich. This was during the Slav era, and we just 1-0 up. We're trying to hold on to this lead, and we were down to 10 men, and then we end up going, Floyd Aite walks it round the keeper and taps it in, and he's basically crying, going, I love Fulham. I love Fulham. And, he's just all of us in that sense. And I think a lot of people as well don't realize just how long he's been doing this for. Like, he's been doing it like decades, like properly a long time. He was doing it when it was like, back in the day when he was, I swear, like a teenager. I need to double check these, but we're having conversations with him where he used to have to ring in and like dial in like updates on Fulham. Like that was kind of like he would give, like, I can't remember where it even went. Like he was just explaining this stuff to me, and then from there it kind of evolved and he became the kind of commentator but he's literally been doing it like decades. And he doesn't hide the fact, like, he's anything but an absolute diehard fan. Like you listen to some of these clubs with their commentators, and there's a real slickness. There's a real kind of like, I could be doing this on 5 Live. I'm a professional commentator, and there's a lot less bias. And I'm like, nah, screw that. No, I want my Jim, like, he's laying it, like, he is biased. He's a Fulham fan, and you know, and also he's actually really good. I don't think people realize how hard it is
Yeah.
to do that job, to talk relentlessly. Like, you know, I know he's got Jamie with him now, but for seasons he was by himself doing this. And to be able to do that, like, is an unbelievable skill. And then to do it with that much bias and passion for the beloved, like for Fulham, just love him. Absolutely love him. And he's just the nicest guy, you know, just the best. So I would say, yeah, like, and one of the only people that have ever made my wife starstruck, weirdly enough, like she was
Oh, wow.
so buzzed to meet him, like just beside herself to meet him, like couldn't believe it was him. And I'm like, really? Like, it's Gentleman Jim, you know, and she's met Fulham players, but yeah. So I'm gonna say Gentleman Jim for all of those reasons. I think he is the absolute boy, and long may he continue to do this job.
I'd say he has been entered in before, usually by fans who have followed Fulham TV and have to watch the games, obviously, with
Yeah.
him as the commentator. And I will never argue because Jim is one of those people that his passion for Fulham is just it's undeniable, and he
Oh,
does two things that have always really impressed me. One, he manages to talk for 90 minutes, and you can tell the passion, you can tell what it is because that's hard. And two, he does it without swearing. Now, like for me, like he watches Fulham play football and doesn't swear.
yeah,
Like the man deserves all sorts of awards just for that alone. You
yeah,
know, because we've all had those moments, and I think Jim, for anyone who hasn't seen it, one of my favorite Gentleman Jim moments is can't remember exactly who we were playing. It might have been Southampton, where there was a moment where I believe someone got elbowed, and uh, he, he's where they're commentating. Him and Jamie are commentating. There's a fan behind him, and he starts arguing with the fan about the fact that this foul had been given,
yeah, yeah.
and he's just like, adamantly going. But so if I just walked up to the keeper and I slit his throat, but the ref
Let
didn't
his
see
throat.
it, would it be a free
Yeah,
kick?
yeah.
It is some of the
It's
greatest
random.
moment. It's so great though, and
It's
like
so
the
bizarre.
passion and the love
I
is
heard
just
that clip on a podcast as well. I can't remember which one it was, but it did make me laugh. It just,
it's so magic, and it's
yeah,
one of those things. Obviously, we don't get to hear Gentleman Jim talk because obviously we're at games, so we don't hear it. But in the moments I've seen him, you know, he does a hard job, and I
yeah.
know that some people bash him because sometimes he gets names mixed up. But I challenge anyone to even at home try comment on a game for 90 minutes about getting someone's name wrong. Uh,
100, mate,
and
100%. And you know,
that's
and to
no
this day, you've still got professional BBC commentators calling Tom Kearney Tom Kearney. So, you know,
yeah, yeah.
it's hard, man. It's a hard job. You know, it's really not easy, and especially when you're that high up or you're that far away, and you know, you're looking at little screens, and there's only so much you're going to do, and it, you know, it's hard to say. I mean, I'm screwed, man. If I hadn't had the bench next to me to ask who scored that goal, like honestly, the amount of times I have to turn and go, guys, who was that? I can't, you know. So it's tricky, but I think he, you know, and I every now and then there's a small pocket of fans that were like, oh, you know, we need someone that's more, you know, kind of professional, whatever. I'm like, nah, bollocks, we do. This is what we need. This is like
No, no.
someone full of
I want someone who's going to argue with fans in the crowd about fouls and
definitely,
is going to be crying because Dennis Adoy scored a second goal at Norwich away. 100%, I
exactly.
want that. 100%, I want that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
and I know from talking to the guys, especially the guys over in the US about him, and I was talking to Ranjan, from India, who was on my show last year, that they relied on him. His voice is literally what they relied on to get any Fulham content when we were the first time we got relegated down to the Championship. So, he rightly holds a place for a lot of people, and he's fully deserving of going in to the Hall of Fame. So, we'll put him in, no problem.
good
Um,
stuff.
Ivan, thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. Appreciate
Mate,
it. I know
no
you're
worries.
Yeah, and I know you're busy and working and stuff, and get preparing for the season, which obviously starts this weekend. For anyone watching, probably 2 weeks ago when this comes out. There's one last thing we like to end the show on, and we like to ask our guests one person that they would recommend that we try and get on the show to interview to hear their Fulham story. So, as a sign off and as a thank you, um, who should we have on as a guest of the show?
I reckon, or I'd say, yeah, get Felix White on, get a Fulham Fix co-host on. He's brilliant, and he can tell a really good story, and his memories as well. He's got a lot more clarity in his memory than I do, and he'll be good to get on without a doubt.
Excellent stuff. Ivan, thank you very much for giving me your time, mate. Good luck with the season, obviously. Work with the club and the work in, and hope it's a great one.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All the best, man. Thank you so much. Come on, you Whites.